Hanoi is the capital city of Vietnam, and over the course of 3 days, I saw some incredible sights from historic temples to the iconic train street. In addition, I ate and drank very well, which ranged from street food to one of the most affordable Michelin-starred restaurants in the world. One thing's for sure, my first few days in Hanoi were incredible. It's a beautiful evening here in Hanoi, Vietnam. I've been in this city for a few days already and I've absolutely been loving it. I found myself here as a result of the tour that I was on, and the first real activity that I did is one of the most notable and unique in the city, Train Street. Within Hanoi, there are in fact multiple areas to view trains creeping along a narrow street lined with cafes. Me and my friend Louis, who was also on the tour, decided to go to the train street listed on Google Maps, which unfortunately was closed by the police. Thankfully, we did the exact opposite of what our tour leader said to do, and that was to put our trust into a complete stranger. She said something to the officer, and soon enough, we were sitting at her cafe with hardly a moment to spare before the train arrived, and it was epic. That was quite the rush. After the train passed, we got our drinks. I got a simple coffee, and considering we just got there, we decided to wait for the next train as well. However, no one seemed exactly sure of when the next train would arrive, and it took longer than we thought. As a result, another round of drinks were in order. This time I got a beer, which was a chocolate stout, and it was very good. Over the course of my time in Vietnam, I didn't get the chance to experience a lot of craft beer, so that brew was welcomed. We waited a while, but finally the next train arrived, which came from the opposite direction. Once again, it was so cool. The train rushes past just inches away. Without a doubt, Train Street is a must visit. After walking through the chaos of Hanoi, we checked into our hotel, which was quite nice. Then it was time for dinner, which happened to be the last group meal of the tour. We went to a spot called V Hanoi, which actually ended up being one of my favorite restaurants of the tour. I started off with the basil cocktail, which contained Malibu rum, basil, pineapple, and passion fruit. To put it simply, that drink hit the spot. It was well made and well balanced. For my appetizer, I got the snail meatballs stuffed in lot leaves, which were very tasty and came paired with a delicious sauce. Then for my main, I got the grilled fish cakes on lemongrass, and once again, that was another winning dish. After dinner, we all went out to Beer Street to conclude the tour, and it was a great tour indeed. The bar we went to had buy one, get one free specials. It was pretty crazy to get 2 beers for a bit over $2. However, I kept it tame that night and only had 4 beers and a shot. I had a big day ahead of me. I just got back to the hotel. It was a fun first day in Hanoi indeed. My tour may be over, but my adventure in Hanoi is just getting started. It was another beautiful day in Hanoi. I first had breakfast at the hotel, then said goodbye to my remaining tour mates, and finally I set off on my own, where I journeyed to my new hotel. I made it to my hotel. It was obviously too early to check in, but I was at least able to drop my bag off, and getting here was quite the adventure. I probably should have taken a Grab, but whatever, I made it. It was an experience. Anyways, it's time to get this day truly started. I didn't have to go very far to come across the first sight of the day, which was St. Joseph's Cathedral. The building was completed in 1886 and was one of the first structures built by the colonial French government. The Gothic Revival architecture of the church was no doubt impressive from the outside, but its interior was still quite the sight. So I just saw one of the notable sites here in Hanoi, St. Joseph's Cathedral, and I was thinking to myself, can this place really compete with the grand churches that I've seen in Europe? And honestly, no. But it's still beautiful nevertheless. I'm particularly fond of the exterior of this church. It's got a bold, striking look to it. So now, I'm not exactly sure what I'm gonna do. Possibly I'll have an early lunch. I don't know, it's an odd day with checking out of my hotel, checking into my new hotel, and ending the tour, but I'll find something to do. I quickly formulated a loose plan that involved checking out one of Hanoi's most notable sites, the Temple of Literature. On my way, however, I was astounded by the sheer amount of motorbikes that populated the street. I took so many photos, but yet I had to stay vigilant so as not to get run over. It was chaotic for sure, but I loved it. By the time I made it to the temple, I figured it would be best if I got lunch first, so I wandered around the area for a bit before settling on a restaurant. I went to the Boutique Noodle House, mainly for the intriguing picture of their mala crab noodles displayed outside of the restaurant. It reminded me of another crab pasta dish at Pizza for Peas that I wanted to try back when I was in Saigon. Inside, I perused the menu. Obviously, I was going to get the mala crab noodles, but in terms of beverages, that was another matter. What caught my eye was a fascinating drink featuring kumquat and salted lime. That beverage proved to be an utter delight. It was savory, acidic, and sweet all at once. I loved it. Next, I received the crab noodles, which unfortunately lacked the crab shell as the restaurant ran out of them. I know that it just served aesthetic purposes, but still, having that shell would have been nice. First, I mixed the crab with the noodles and then dove right in. The result was a savory and spicy noodle dish that hit the spot. Overall, that was a satisfying lunch. So lunch was pretty good. Now I'm a little bummed that they ran out of the crab shells, but it still tasted good and that's what counts. And now it is time for some sightseeing, so I'm gonna see one of the top sites in Hanoi, the Temple of Literature. The Temple of Literature is a temple dedicated to Confucius. It was founded and built nearly a millennium ago in 1070. From 1076 to 1779, it hosted the Imperial Academy, which was Vietnam's first national university. The temple is a notable landmark for Vietnam, and as a result, it's featured on the back of the 100,000 Vietnamese dong banknote. I found the site to be incredibly beautiful, peaceful, and photogenic. I even got myself a souvenir, but it was kind of by accident. For a moment, I stepped aside to answer an email, but then I realized I actually stepped into a line for a calligraphy artist. I was given a list of various words and phrases to choose from, and I went with the word success. The result was a pretty cool souvenir that only set me back a few bucks.
Đề cao hiện đại.
I then continued my exploration of the temple and visiting all its various buildings and areas. The site is truly a must visit. After some good sightseeing, it was then coffee time. I checked out a spot called 80 Plus Coffee Roastery and ordered a very interesting drink consisting of coffee, fresh milk, and smoky Earl Grey milk foam. To put it simply, I thought that drink was phenomenal. The bright flavor of the Earl Grey and that creamy milk foam paired wonderfully with the coffee. In addition, I relaxed with my book, but soon enough it was time to head back to my hotel and check in. After arriving to the Jade Boutique Hotel and getting everything settled, I made my way up to my room, which was small but modern and cozy. So I just checked into my hotel. It's a bit small, but it's not bad. Let's go for a tour. So my room even has a kitchen, and it has a number of appliances. I don't think I've ever been in a room with this many appliances. Now, I probably won't use any of them, but it's nice to have them. I also have quite the view of a nice stone wall. So the toilet in the shower is kind of weird. I've had similar places, but yeah, I can make it work though. Now this place is a bit small and it does have some odd features, but it is perfectly suitable for me. Plus I paid around maybe 30 bucks a night for this spot, and there's really nothing to complain about. Anyways, I'm gonna unpack a bit and get settled, and then I gotta figure out my dinner situation. Regarding dinner, I was hoping to dine at the Michelin-starred Gia that evening. I was on the wait list, but sadly a spot at the restaurant never opened up. As a result, I went to Duong's restaurant, which was right next to my hotel. The fact was, I was tired. The tour took a lot out of me, since for the past 12 days, I either shared rooms with my tour mates or slept on overnight trains, and thus didn't get very much sleep. Duong's restaurant proved to be a good fit for me that day, since I could go right in, have a nice meal, and then quickly return to my hotel for a good night's rest. Plus, Duong's restaurant has solid reviews. It once maintained a Michelin Bib Gourmand, but is still Michelin recommended. Inside, the restaurant has a pleasant atmosphere. Regarding the menu, Duong's offers a good variety of Vietnamese cuisine along with traditional Hanoi specialties. In terms of beverages, I felt like having beer. I got the Bia Saigon Special. While the Hanoi beer would have been much more fitting considering the city I was in, I did have 4 of them the previous night, so I thought the Saigon beer would be a good change of pace, and it hit the spot. For my appetizer, I got a dish that I've been meaning to try, which was banh xeo. It's basically a special type of Vietnamese pancake, although it's very different compared to what I think of as pancakes back home. The way to eat the dish is to take a sheet of rice paper and then add some of the pancake to it and wrap it all up. That night, I was particularly terrible at fashioning that wrap, but the appetizer was delicious. The shrimp and all of the other elements combined with that sweet sauce resulted in a very satisfying start to my dinner. Next up was my main, which arrived literally cooking in front of me. I got one of the specialties of the restaurant, which was the grilled catfish. It contained catfish fillets, rice noodles, shrimp sauce, spring onions, and dill. I combined the fish with the noodles and was thoroughly pleased with the result. The fish was perfectly cooked. It was very tender. The shrimp sauce was funky, sweet, and went nicely with the catfish. To sum it up, that dish was another winner. Finally, it was time for dessert. I decided to go with the hot passion fruit cake, which came with a passion fruit sauce and vanilla ice cream. That equated to be a tasty sweet treat to conclude my meal, although it was pretty small, and frankly, I wish that it was a bit larger. Nevertheless, I was still happy. Finally, it was time for the bill, which totaled to 616,000 dong, but with the USD conversion rate of that particular day, I spent a total of $23.47, which I thought was pretty good value. So I just finished dinner and walked over here to St. Joseph's Cathedral once again, and it looks really cool at night. It's really well lit and just looks frankly awesome. Now in terms of dinner, it wasn't the Michelin starred experience that I was hoping for today, but nevertheless, it was a very good dinner. I really enjoyed myself. All of my food was tasty and delicious. It was definitely one of my better meals that I've had so far in Vietnam. Now, I'm sure I'll have plenty more fine meals here in Vietnam, but for now, I'm gonna head back to my hotel and get some much needed rest. After a good night's sleep, I was feeling great. The first order of business for the day involved getting coffee, of course. It's another fine day today here in Hanoi. I'm starting my day, of course, with coffee. I just chose this coffee shop randomly. It's right next to my hotel, and it's pretty good. I got an Americano, and it's solid. So I'm gonna hang here for a bit, do some reading, and then it's off for some exploring, and maybe I'll even dine at a Michelin-starred restaurant today. After finishing my coffee and developing a loose plan for the day, I decided to have an early lunch at the Michelin-starred Thang. I wanted to go early since I didn't have a reservation, but thankfully I was granted a table. Thang opened in 2019 by a mother and daughter duo, and it's currently only one of 4 Hanoi restaurants with a Michelin star. In terms of the menu, there was a wide variety of northern Vietnamese dishes. There were even a couple of set menus, which sounded great, but I decided to go the a la carte route. For my beverage, I ordered corn juice with sugarcane. It was a pleasant drink indeed, as it was nicely balanced and had the right amount of sweetness. For my mains, I got 2 dishes and they both looked good. The first one I tried was the crab soup with Malabar spinach. I tried the hot broth first, which was clean and light. Then I tried the crab, which was interesting. It was very earthy. That dish was alright, but not exactly something that I would want to have again. The other dish, however, I would order again in a heartbeat. It was caramelized pork and eggs, which I paired with a side of rice. That pork was so savory and tender, combined with the sweet sauce, that creation was practically perfect. In fact, that was one of my favorite dishes I had during my time in Vietnam. To sum it up, that was a nice lunch. While it didn't have the same level of polish compared to other starred restaurants that I've gone to, it nevertheless proved to be a good restaurant. To conclude my meal, I was presented with a plate of sliced oranges, which proved to be delightful. After finishing, it was time for the bill, which totaled to just under 400,000 dong. Right after my lunch, I checked the conversion rate, which equated to be $15.20, making that meal one of the most affordable Michelin-starred experiences that I've ever had. In fact, I've typically paid more to eat at McDonald's than what one of the best restaurants in Vietnam actually cost me. Now that was some pretty crazy value. So I just finished my lunch and decided to walk over here to this nearby park. That was a pretty good meal. I really enjoyed that. Now, in some respects, I don't think the restaurant is quite on the same level as a lot of the other Michelin-starred places that I've been to, but it is still a great restaurant nevertheless. That pork dish was excellent. Without a doubt, that was one of the best courses that I've had so far here in Vietnam. Plus, there's also the price. I spent $15.20, which makes that one of the most affordable Michelin-starred restaurants that I've ever dined at. Yeah, I'm really gonna miss these Vietnamese prices when I go back home. Anyways, it is time now for some exploring and sightseeing. I walked on over to the nearby Imperial Citadel of Thang, which is another of Hanoi's top sites to visit. The site is made up of numerous historic buildings and structures, along with museum-like exhibits explaining the Citadel's history. It was in 1010 that the Citadel's construction began, with it being completed the following year. However, most of the Citadel was unfortunately demolished by the French to allow for more space for barracks and offices. Still, what was there was incredible to see. I really enjoyed my time at the Citadel. In fact, I spent more time there than I thought I would. It was a pretty big place. One thing that I wasn't expecting to see were sites connected to the Vietnam War. In fact, the Citadel is home to House D67, which was a historic military command building and underground bunker of the People's Army of Vietnam. The structure was built to look like a house and thus hide its military significance. To sum it up, I thoroughly enjoyed exploring the Citadel, but soon enough, it was coffee time. I went to the popular Fuku Coffee, which is located right next to Tom V. The spot really nails it when it comes to vibes and aesthetics, and thus attracted numerous customers who were there to capture photos. I, however, wanted caffeine. The menu featured a number of intriguing drinks. I ended up getting the banana cream espresso, and it looked incredible. The drink was served hot, but was also paired with a side of ice. That creation blew me away. It was like a caffeinated dessert. The sweet banana cream paired perfectly with the strong espresso. When it comes to coffee, Vietnam is truly on another level. After getting caffeinated, I simply walked around a bit, captured some photos, and took in the sights and sounds of the city. Hanoi is really something else. A little later, I decided to take a break, so I stopped for a beer at a location of Tony Vu's Brewing. It did seem a little touristy, but it allowed me to kick back and relax with a decent beer and a book. After a full day of exploring Hanoi, it felt great to hit the brakes for a bit. Before long, it was dinner time. I first found a place offering a variety of intriguing skewers, but ultimately I felt like having pho. I went to the popular Phở Gà Nguyệt, which even has a Michelin Bib Gourmand. As the name implies, the restaurant specializes in chicken pho. I ordered the pho with chicken breast and extra meat, along with a serving of fried breadsticks. The soup was absolutely packed with tender-looking chicken, so I wasted no time and dove right in. The meat was wonderful, the broth was on the mark, and the noodles were as comforting as could be. I did eventually take advantage of the condiments to jazz up my soup a bit, but condiments or not, that was a great bowl of pho. As far as the fried breadsticks, they went great with the soup. I dipped them into the broth where they were able to soak up all that flavor and provide a bit of textural variation. In total, my dinner set me back 85,000 dong, which equated to a bit over $3. So far, my time in Hanoi has been amazing, but I still had more adventures in the city to come. Back at the hotel, today has been a great day. I certainly ate and drank very well, and I can't wait to see what tomorrow has in store.